Like always, I drink coffee. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Sakai DevSchool. We are interrupting our regularly scheduled programming with Adrian teaching us about the Pages tool. We've actually been on hiatus for a month while we finish Sakai 23. People on this call, people on this DevSchool, the teachers and the learners were busy making Sakai 23 work. And so, as we come back, we have a really, Zhuo Yang is going to give us a presentation. This presentation came out of, I was just in a meeting with Zhuo and I'm like, how do you work on parts of Sakai that I'm afraid to work on? And I've been working on Sakai for 20 years and Zhuo has been working on it for 6 months. And he says, I use ChatGPT. And I'm like, no, I can't believe that that's actually true. And he said, yes, I use it. And so I said, please show us how it is that you use ChatGPT to work on parts of Sakai that you have never seen. And people like me who worked on Sakai would be scared or uncomfortable going into that code base. And so over the past few months, Zhuo has just fearlessly taken almost any bug anywhere in Sakai. And I look at those bugs and I say, I'm not going there. I'll let Adrian do that, or I'll let Chris Maurer do that, or I'll let somebody do that because I'm scared. So without further ado, I will, Zhuo, turn it over to you and let you start screen sharing and just walk through. Do you mind questions all along as we go?
No problem. Can ask questions.
Okay, I will hide and switch to watching.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Zhuo Yang, a graduate student specializing in data science at the University of Michigan. For the last 8 months, I have been actively involved in the Sakai project, making valuable contributions to both the development and the QA teams. Today, I'm excited to share my experience in Sakai development and how I have leveraged the ChatGPT to enhance the development process. Well, I will begin with a brief introduction, dive into the step-by-step process employed to identify and resolve issues using ChatGPT, and conclude with key insights gained from my exploration. So let's get started. Well, as many of you are aware, getting started with issue fixing in open source projects, including the Sakai project, can be challenging, especially due to the lack of well-designed documentation in rapidly evolving environments. As a newcomer, I faced significant difficulties in navigating the complexity of Sakai, which involves various web technologies across different modules. So fortunately, with the help of ChatGPT and the supportive Sakai community members, I was able to overcome these obstacles and master the process of issue discovery and resolution. Well, the primary objective of this presentation is to share my experience in Sakai development through a step-by-step process for issue discovery and resolution. I aim to provide support to developers who are interested in exploring Sakai project but encounter difficulties in getting started. Well, I hope this session is beneficial in overcoming those challenges and foster a deeper understanding of Sakai development using ChatGPT. Let's jump to our first section, identifying and reproducing issues. Well, the initial step in the development process is to identify the tasks at hand. Well, the QA team plays a crucial role in this aspect by providing comprehensive information about issue in Sakai through the Jira platform. Consequently, developers can easily locate the specific issues that we should address within the platform. By using Jira and following the provided test plans, we ensure reliable approach to finding and reproducing the issues. And locating an issue report may be the easier part of the development process, thanks to the efforts of the QA team. However, finding what happens behind the scene is challenging. Let's move on to our next step. To do this, we refer to the expected situation outlined in the test plans and carefully analyze the front-end code associated with the issue. Using inspector tool, we can pinpoint the HTML elements that might be responsible for the error by looking for content such as ID and class attributes within HTML elements. We gain valuable clues about the problem. We then utilize this content as a keyword for a global search in an IDE. For instance, let's consider the button grade rubric, as you can see on the right side. Using the inspector, we extract the relevant class attributes and use it to do a global search for corresponding code in Codebase. So the search in IDE will return only one result, leading us directly to the precise location we are looking for. After locating the front-end code, the next step is to establish the connection between the front-end and back-end, especially identifying the API responsible for sending data. This process can be more complex as different modules in Sakai might utilize various web technologies. Some modules like Rubric may use web APIs to retrieve data from the server, while others rely on Velocity, Wikit, Timeleaf, or JSP to render HTML content on the server side. Well, for modules using web APIs, we can easily check whether the data from the backend is correct by setting breakpoints in the browser's source tool or printing the result in the console. If the data from APIs is incorrect, identifying the corresponding API can be done by inspecting the fetch method in the JS code or utilizing the network tool in the browser. However, for modules using template engines, the process can be more challenging due to the different syntax of various template engines. As Dr. Chuck mentioned earlier, that would be quite complex. This is where ChatGPT can prove immensely helpful. Instead of having to sift through extensive documentation from various template engines, we can leverage ChatGPT's powerful ability to explain codes using different syntaxes. All that is required is to copy the target code from the code base and paste it into the ChatGPT, accompanied by a simple prompt, such as, what does this code do? ChatGPT then will then provide a detailed line-by-line explanation of the code's meaning, saving us time and effort in seeking information from massive documentation. To illustrate, here is an example of how to use ChatGPT to comprehend the meaning of the code using Velocity templates. As you can see, using a simple prompt, what does the code do, followed by the code snippet, ChatGPT gives us a line-by-line explanation of the code. Then we are able to gain a clear understanding of the code's functionality, enabling us to identify the relevant backend API and proceed to the next development steps. After knowing what happens behind the code and identifying the APIs or JS code responsible for the issue, it's time to design our solutions. Now, ChatGPT's assistance shines again. It helps us brainstorm ideas for code changes and even writes code snippets for us, saving us valuable development time. Let's explore an example of how we can utilize ChatGPT to generate code for us. For issue Sakai 48969, we encounter a problem where an API returned all submissions, including those the current user doesn't have access to. To tackle this issue, we decided to update the API implementation and filter the submissions based on the access rights of the current user. Using ChatGPT, we provide some code snippets that corresponding to that issue and requirements to generate the desired code. Fortunately, ChatGPT provided a code snippet that correctly adjusts my needs, which I could incorporate into the code base. Well, although the code snippets ChatGPT provides are helpful, it was noting that ChatGPT, like any AI model, can occasionally make mistakes. So human validation is crucial to ensure the reliability of the code before you merging them into the code base. Well, throughout this presentation, I have demonstrated how ChatGPT has become a part of my development process. Now it's time to conclude our discussion. Well, in conclusion, my journey as a beginner in Sakai has been significantly enhanced by leveraging ChatGPT, a powerful AI tool. It helps me overcome challenges in understanding complex code, efficiently resolve issues, and accelerate my learning process. I hope that my experience will help you get started in Sakai development. Thank you all for your patience. Are there any questions or concerns?
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
I have a bunch of questions, but I am going
Sure.
to see if others on the call want to have better questions first.
Okay, got it.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, I'll start and others may end up with questions. So what does your screen look like while you're doing all this? Do you simply have ChatGPT in a browser, or do you use some kind of a VS Code plugin? How do you do it?
Well, technically, I only use ChatGPT and an ID like IntelliJ IDEA in my screen. So what I did is just figured out what the code, what the meaning of the code, and what happens behind the issue. And then if I have something that I don't familiar with, which is maybe the syntax of different web technology like wiki templates or velocity templates, then I will paste them into the ChatGPT and figure it out by looking at the details ChatGPT give me. So
If you're putting it in IntelliJ, though, does it look at the whole Sakai code base? Is it clever, or is it really whatever you cut? You just are giving it what you cut and paste and asked it to explain that.
Yes, I just simply copy the code snippet in the code base from the code base into ChatGPT, and then it will explain code for me. For example, like this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that part
is
right is just a browser. You screenshotted something that you and ChatGPT were talking about in a browser.
Yes, it's just in browser. It's very simple, so everyone can get started with the development.
Yeah, and so in a sense, what you're leveraging is that ChatGPT has read all the documentation, and you don't have to go to Google and search and have a Stack Overflow. And one problem I have with Stack Overflow is it just is often telling you things that are so old they don't matter. But somehow ChatGPT has got a better chance at giving you relevant information pretty quickly.
Yes, that's true. So for example, like this. like this. Well, this is a code snippet from a velocity template, which I was not familiar with before. So I just copy paste the code into ChatGPT, and then it will explain, the code line by line. And then I don't need to like split everything syntax and paste them into the Google search. Sometimes, Google search doesn't work for very detailed information.
Right.
So it really saves me a lot of time in
You
understanding the
don't have
code.
to know, you don't have to know what the critical word is in that big blob of stuff, right? ChatGPT kind
Yes,
of figures out what's relevant and then keys off of that, rather than you can't just paste that much into Google.
yes. You don't have to read the whole documentation to find how to build a rocket. You only need to solve maybe a equation that doesn't require the skills to build a rocket. So ChatGPT will provide a very precise and detailed explanation of what you are looking for.
So one of the things that, is a challenge in Sakai is that some of the technologies we use are old, right?
Yeah.
And some of them are like, have you used it with Wicket? And did it help you with Wicket? Have you?
Yes. All this stuff are the same because this is an example of velocity templates, and we can also copy paste an example of the wiki template or the template. It's all that thing is the same.
So like Java server faces or JSP,
Yes.
you just figure, hey, ChatGPT, you'll figure that out.
Yes.
What are some of the things in Java that it's helped you figure it out?
Well, sometimes I'm not sure. Sometimes we want to figure out the standard way to solve a problem like this. We want in Sakai project we use the stream to produce the result instead of using the for loop. So maybe people are not familiar with the stream process.
That's
will be beneficial from just ask the ChatGPT to using the stream method to produce the solutions, and then you can just copy paste the code it provides to you.
Have you ever asked it to take, here's a stream thing and I need to do one more thing, and had it give you like, I need to filter this stream by such and so. Here's a stream.
Yes.
And has it done that?
Yes, I think so.
That means that it's as smart as Adrian and Earl, because that's how I solve stream problems, is I just ask my own artificial intelligence in the form of Adrian and Earl, like, I can't figure this darn stream out. So if ChatGPT simply would make it so I could learn Java streams or not learn Java streams, as it were, because I think,
yeah, you
I
don't
think
have to know every detail of the syntax. You only need to know, well, you want to use stream method, so you can tell ChatGPT that I want to use this. Just give me the code of how to using this.
Does anybody else have any questions? I'll come up with more. I'll read the chat as well.
One thing that jumps out at me there from your kind of code snippets, that the velocity stuff, particularly that your slides there, right, is how important it is to have good method names when we're writing code, right? Because there's something like that, for instance, the spinner bit, right, where it says this line inserts a spinner in a particular placeholder, right? Well, it's picked that up from the function name, hasn't it? That's what it's done, right? It's read that JS function name, right, and it's inferred what that's doing from from the function name. So
yes,
yeah, it just validates the idea that self-documenting code is like really important, and it's always a good idea to use a nice long function name, right? You know what I mean? Don't worry about the space, but it's not 1970, right? So we can use nice long function names, and that's going to help ChatGPT to help you down the line. Yeah.
Sure.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, so it's like a mixture. It's like it's read the documentation, like Dr. Chuck just said, right? So it's read all the docs, but it's also trying to extract meaning from, like the function names. It's cool, man. It's really good. Yeah, it's dead useful. And like I say in the comments there, right? So basically you're saying, right, give me a fragment of code that uses streams and filters by this, right? But you as the developer have the holistic overview of what you're trying to do, right? So you just give it a focused task. Yeah. Yes, it's interesting.
Yes, ChatGPT cannot do anything for you. So what developers can do is to know what we need to do and ask ChatGPT to create the solution, instead of ask ChatGPT a very abstract questions and let it to think about the solution. We need, as a human being, we need to think of what we should do, and then ChatGPT can do for us.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really interesting. So if you asked ChatGPT, you said rewrite the lessons tool in TimeLeaf, right? That wouldn't work very well, would it? I don't know.
No, that won't.
We'll have to check it.
Bad but true.
It might do. Who knows? That'd be quite scary, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, this is where I want ChatGPT to read our whole code base, and we can ask questions like, how many lines of RSF do we still have? Things like that.
Yeah. It'd be interesting, man. Just to like, maybe we won't like the answer though. We go and get a different job.
Many.
Go.
The answer will be too many. We don't need artificial intelligence to know that the answer of that is too many. So I think another important lesson is, it'll be interesting to Adrian, was in the first part of Zhuo's talk, and that was if he's just doing front end stuff, talking to APIs in the back end, he doesn't have to use ChatGPT nearly as much.
Yes.
as when he's using some of our amazing server-side technology, right? Meaning that, I'm sure you could use ChatGPT once you maybe get in a web API and you see some kind of a stream or something. You still could use it. It's just you're closer to the solution by the time you refer to ChatGPT in sort of a web component, web API backend kind of a thing, which is of course where we're going, wherever we can. And so that's cool. This isn't okay. Okay. You're working on is this a dashboard? Oh, that's a dashboard one, which
tasks,
is
probably.
Yeah. And then I think, was the other one the grade book? Were you putting a spinner in the grade book that I'd requested? Was that the one that you used as your example? You had the SAC in there. I didn't look the SAC up.
No, that's velocity. That was assignments, wasn't it? I think.
Oh, assignments. Okay. I thought maybe it was the one thing where I said, I want a spinner here because it takes so long, but that was a different one. So
it was velocity code.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did pick up on that. Yeah, that was interesting. And I really like that. That really pleases me that it was easy enough to look at the front end stuff, inspect it, and then look at the controllers. And I'm glad that was easier. that's good. Yeah,
because it's our direction we're going.
Yeah, and maybe there's a lot more developers who are coming out of university, or they're in university still, who are doing more stuff in the browser, so that they're familiar with all the Chrome tools and things, and that's a good thought,
And I think one of the interesting things that strikes me about this is that I make fun of streams, but if I'm writing code, I'm going to tend to write a for loop, and if Adrian's writing code, he's going to tend to write a stream. And right, you probably see my code, and you've probably seen Adrian's code, but we're going to get bugs in all of that. We're going to find bugs in Chuck code. We're going to find bugs in Adrian code, and the average developer who is going to wander through just fixing bugs has got to be ready for all that. And some of these syntaxes just, I mean, evolve over time. Streams is a more recent thing, and on and on. So that's getting help on things that are not gigantic is surprisingly useful, I think, is a big lesson that comes from this.
For sure.
You can learn something from 20 or 30 lines of code and say, what's it doing? Or let me make this one.
Exactly. You could just cut and paste a big block of like stream-based code in there, chuck like, I don't know, 40 lines or something, right? And it's probably going to give you a really good explanation of what's happening. So,
and then I could say something like, in the middle of, one of the things that bothers me with streams is I'm like, in the middle of this stream, between this dot and that dot, what is the type of the things going through that? I want like a vertical bar thing where I can like T it, and Unix, you can take a stream and you can say T. You can see what's going by on the stream with T in a series of pipes in Unix.
Yeah, with on that note, with from Java 10 upwards, right, which we can now use in master, you can now put types in your Lambda variables. You can type them. You can actually put a type kind of annotation type thing there, something like that. You'd have to go and Google it right after, but I'm pretty sure you can add types now into those Lambda variables, which will help to explain the code a little bit better, make it a bit more self-explanatory. I know what you're saying about it's quite hard until you build it and you get the compiler complaints about the types and stuff. It's quite hard when you're writing it to keep a grip of what type you've got at any particular stage in the stream. Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of like SQL, where it might take me, an hour to write a really beautiful join with 7 tables and some where clauses, then some complex, left joins and here and there, and you get it working. But then to debug it, it might take you 2 hours to figure out, like, why is there a left join in the middle of this SQL?
Yeah, I personally think SQL is way more complicated than stream syntax.
I get it, but what I'm saying is, I'm saying the notion that some of these sort of flow-based patterns are sometimes easier to write than to understand after the fact. We can get help understanding some of those things. It'd be interesting to feed some ugly SQL to it and then ask kind of detailed questions about why is that little piece right in there, kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That really would actually be really, really useful. I mean, I'd find that massively useful because I don't do that much SQL day to day. So when I get faced with a big, like left join, inner join, all that stuff, it kind of blows my mind every time. So,
yeah. So, okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I don't know. What do we want to do with this next? I mean, do we want to ask like people to try it out with some SQL and things like that, and just see a bit of experimentation here, like, or maybe we could ask you to explain some RSF, see what it makes of that, right? You know what I mean? Like, just out of interest. I don't know.
I think the idea is that we just share this recording broadly, right? And people just start using it to help them. It has changed. It has definitely changed for me, my sense of when I could find ChatGPT, when I might find ChatGPT useful. Because before this, I thought ChatGPT working on Sakai could never be useful, right? There's just no way. And the best nugget is this notion of pasting in 40 lines of code and having it be explained. And of course, that then triggers me as a teacher, because we as a teacher right now for this next semester are thinking fiercely about, like, how can we turn ChatGPT into a benefit, not a cheating tool, right? How can we? So, and so, I might have my students in classes watch this or come up with a slightly different version based on Django, right? And who knows, I might borrow these ideas and make a little lecture in Django for everybody. And wow. I mean, all of a sudden my mind is like spinning. Because one of the things
ask them to explain how they use ChatGPT, how they use it, so go and use it then, but you're going to have to explain, a small presentation or a talk on how you used it. You know what I mean? Like just
This whole idea of the size of what you paste, like Django is horrible in its tracebacks. So you'll make a mistake in a piece of Django code and you'll get this traceback, and an experienced Django person will mentally throw away all the inside library code, inside library code, inside library code, inside my code, inside library code, inside library code, inside my code. It's like, oh yeah, that's obvious. You ignore 12, then you look at 1, and then you ignore 3, then you look at 1, and then whatever. And I just wonder now, if I just pasted that into ChatGPT, would ChatGPT automatically know that library, all that crap in the traceback that doesn't really matter, it's not code you wrote, and it basically takes that traceback and says, here are the 2 or 3 places in your code that might have caused this. That would be a game changer for
that would be awesome.
my Django students, right? That would be a total game changer. Again, I think our problem is we say, write my PhD thesis to ChatGPT, and so we look for those kinds of problems in ChatGPT and what this shows. So I think the key thing is just to promote this and get it out there and get some more experience, and then maybe a few other people can learn from this and try it, and then we can have more conversations about it.
Yeah. I think we need to destroy it. We need to burn it.
Burn what?
ChatGPT.
Oh yeah. We have to kick everyone who uses it out of school. That would be a great idea.
We have to burn it quick. Yeah. It's coming for us.
Okay, well, let's wrap up the recording. We can talk a little bit afterwards, but I'll wrap up the recording so I can put that on YouTube. So thank you everybody for watching. And if you're watching us recorded, feel free. We have a Sakai Developer School Wednesday mornings, and it's usually a small group. And thanks, Joe, for a great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you all for your participation. And I really want to thank Dr. Chuck and other Sakai community members for their support and guidance in my in this journey. And I hope this presentation will be helpful for you. Yeah, thank you.